What's going on, everybody? It's been a while. Brandon here with Making Traditional, and I've been off for about a year. We've, as a family, made some really big changes. Moved to a different state. We're living in North Idaho now, if you guys have watched that couple videos. But I'm still not done with archery. I was able to do some guiding this fall. Guided a bunch of elk hunters and some deer hunters, rifle and archery season, and had a couple archery hunters that wanted to get some arrows built. So hunting season's over now, and the fall's over, and we're in the dead of winter, and I got this set of arrows. So we're gonna get a set of arrows burnt for you guys. I got my young feather burner set up here. You guys have seen a lot of that. If you haven't, check out a lot of my old burning videos. Things are pretty slick. You can find them used in a lot of places, so keep an eye open for them. There are some good suppliers out there that can get you pointed in the right direction. Andy Ponce with Addictive Archery, Riley Savage there at Archery Pass. A lot of those guys will get you hooked up with a burner if you don't have one already. So this set of arrows is pretty slick. They like the neon. I know a lot of you guys like the neon, so I've got a dark ebony stain blended out to natural. And as you can see there, got a little bit of crest stain, neon tail cap, neon. These are Boning Classic Knox. It's gonna make a real sweet set of arrows. I think these are 50-55s. Kid's got a 45-pound recurve that he's hopefully gonna whack some deer with in Illinois, I believe is where they're from. So let's get to burning. I should also add, this is the first set of arrows burnt in my new shop. So this is pretty cool building. This garage was the original home here on a homestead. It was built in like 1924, I believe. So it's pretty cool. I'm not going to do a whole video of it because it's pretty messy, but up inside I'm in like the old kitchen. So I've got a bunch of my bow making stuff and some bows in here that I've built or shoot. And this is where I kind of have my arrow booth set up. So kind of cool. This is the first set burnt here in North Idaho. So with this feather burner, it just heats up a metal ribbon that's the shape of my feather that I'd like to cut. So I have this bent up to the 5-inch shield cut that I want. So this is just bent by me. And so how this process works, the knock end of the arrow goes in here like such. And when that ribbon is glowing hot, I twist it and it cuts that fletching. So you can see the top of that ribbon where it's touching the arrow is not quite lined up with the top of the feather. It's close, but each set of arrows is ever so slightly different. So I'm going to adjust it so that that lines up. So we'll do that now. All right, so now you can see I adjusted this bracket to shift it down so that the top of the feather is now lined up with the top of that ribbon. Now you can see that ribbon is not quite touching the wood. As this thing heats up, it's going to expand and it will actually get closer to the wood. I also don't want it to touch the wood, so being off a little bit is okay. I usually go through at the end and clean up what the burner leaves behind with a pair of scissors, real small scissors. So I think we're good to go. What I like to do is go through all my arrows, and all of my my fletching jigs are set to line up the same, but every once in a while I'll have one where the feathers align somewhere different on the shaft, like maybe down here or the other way, and I'll set those ones aside and burn those separate and readjust the bracket. So I'll go through and get all of these checked out, make sure they all line up, and then I know I can go through and burn a batch at a time. So all those look pretty good, so I think I can go ahead and burn them all as one batch. The variations in how far those fletches are on the shaft aren't enough to cause an issue. One thing you guys might have noticed here is on this ribbon, I'll zoom you in here, I have these Allen wrenches, and what these Allen wrenches are doing, so this burner I've kind of fine-tuned to be optimal efficiency here. So the way this works is this is a transformer inside the young feather burner, and as this transformer gets electricity put to it, it heats up this ribbon because it's resistant. So current is trying to flow through this ribbon. And because this is a small wire, it gets really, really red hot because of resistance. What I noticed early on was this ribbon wasn't getting as red hot as I like it to. And so I ended up taking this whole burner apart. I cleaned all the electrical contacts. And then I decided to add these Allen wrenches, just some metal. They could be nails, it could be anything they want that you would want. But what that does, that allows, so I'm an electrician by trade, so E equals I times R in the electrical world. So voltage is equal to current times resistance. So I want all of my resistance to be in the band, not in these fittings. And so I think what was happening before when the contacts were dirty, you're getting resistance elsewhere in the circuit, not just this band. And so heat was getting lost in various points. So by installing these Allen keys or nails or whatever else, that's allowing more current to be ran through this fitting, and then the resistance starting farther on down the circuit in the ribbon itself. And so because the voltage is a constant, I can manipulate the resistance by adding less resistance. So there's more metal for that current to flow through. So higher current means lower resistance here, but because we have less material for that electricity to flow through, the resistance out here becomes higher, which makes it redder. So if that doesn't make any sense to you, I'm sorry, it works in my head, and that's just how I explain it. So anyway, if you guys have any further questions about it, definitely ask away in the comments. And you can see that ribbon is now getting really red. So it's not red back here where my current is higher. So I have less resistance, more current here where I've doubled up that metal with the Allen keys. But where the Allen keys stop is where my resistance goes back up, and I get a nice red burn on that ribbon, which cuts those feathers a lot cleaner. You get less smoke, cleaner cut, and then you have less to clean up after. When we're burning these fletchings, I like to spin them clockwise, and I want the fletching when it gets cut to drop down. You'll see sometimes guys will spin them the other way, and what happens is you're trying to spin that feather into the metal, which it burns it, but because gravity is working against it, it's going to keep falling back into that hot ribbon, and you get a lot of smoke, and you get a lot of smoke stain, which isn't so much of an issue on the natural colored feathers. But when you get into the whites or the light grays, you get a lot of smoke stain that can happen. And you can clean a lot of that off with rubbing alcohol or even water. But it just makes for a cleaner cut and a cleaner burn if you spin the other way. So I do an initial spin and I take a look, and I can kind of see where I'm not cutting much off the bottom of these feathers. It's cutting nice and clean along the top, so you can kind of see there. So I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug it, and I'm going to let this burner cool down, and I'm going to adjust that wire to come in and burn towards the bases of these quills a little bit more. Might as well throw some more wood on the fire. It's about 23 degrees out today. Balmy. We had last week, I think it was, we got down to minus 14 here at the house. That's pretty cool. That's the coldest I've ever lived in, but we have a wood stove and lots of wood, and we were blessed to stay nice and warm, so that was pretty fun. This wood stove that's in the shop here is an old Blaze King Princess, I think, that's probably seen a lot of use. It's got a big crack in the top here, but it does all right. Keeps the shop nice and toasty if I get this thing ripping and get the door shut. I just burn all my old scrap cut ends and chunks of pallet and whatever else I can find that's not taking away good wood from the house. But you can kind of see all this old shiplap. This is the old house. Cool old window casings. Ooh, behind me here. A lot of character here, which is kind of cool. They ended up pulling out the log subfloor down here. And then they poured a garage floor. It's got some garage doors on it, so you can park cars in here. But kind of cool, old homestead. All right, our ribbon's cooled off. So what we're gonna do here is, you can see where that ribbon cut on this feather here. And so the front edge of this ribbon doesn't quite get close enough to the shaft. You can see where it didn't really burn the front edge of that feather. The back end is good, burned exactly how I want it to. So what we're going to do is just pinch the corner, the front corner of this on this end and get it closer to the shaft. So like that. And then I don't want that shield cut shape to get too tall. I'll just put a little spring in it. And there we go. I got this shape initially from looking at an old vintage Fletching. And I kind of mimicked what they had going on here. So that shape is from an old vintage arrow. This is a cool arrow. A friend of mine gave this to me. This is signed by Jay St. Charles, Glenn St. Charles' sons. Both of them, actually. So that was kind of cool. Thanks Ben Bolson for that. And then I put it on an old arrow, Glenn St. Charles arrow. All right, so now we can see here the front edge of that ribbon should cut almost to the edge of the shaft. So we'll go ahead and get this one burnt. We'll get it plugged back in and see how it looks. Perfect. So you can see that brought a nice curve down to the shaft there. So we're ready to go. Alright, so now once we get them all burned, we'll use a nylon bristle brush. This is just like a paint cleaning brush, fairly soft bristles. And I'm going to just go through each of those feathers, and this kind of helps knock off any leftover burnt residue, burnt feather material on each of these feathers. And we'll go through and get all these done and move on to the next step. Alright, there we go. Now we'll go through and I'll use a pair of scissors and clean up any straggling feathers that might exist. I think there was just 2 little spots. So I actually can't find my scissors, so I've got a pair of toenail clippers here that works just as well. I think that was it. Alright, so what we're going to do is just add a dab of glue at the base of each quill. And I kind of build up it as a little ball. And that just kind of gives me a little more stick to each feather. Another little touch I like to do is at the base of each of these quills, you can kind of see I angled the quill on the wide side of the quill with a pair of fingernail clippers. And that helps that transition, especially for a guy shooting off of his knuckles or off of a shelf. It doesn't allow that quill to grab or cut your hand. These are some new old stock heads that I have from one of my rugged art projects. If you guys haven't seen that one, it's the big arrow display with all the custom heads custom arrows, and broadheads. You guys make sure to check that out. I think it's in my shorts on YouTube, and then it should be in my stories on Instagram. There we go. Good place to start. I wouldn't call them hunting sharp, but with a little more file work, they'll be ready to go. All right, so now that we have everything's glued up, points are mounted, I'm going to go ahead and get them in the box here. I'll give them their final once over as I'm putting them away, and we'll get a shipping label on these and ready to go out. Thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and click that subscribe, hit that notification icon, and go back and check out my other arrow building videos. If you have more questions, feel free to drop them in the comments down below. I've done quite a few burning videos, so the burning process is covered pretty well as some start to finish wood arrow building projects. So see you guys next time.